Hello everyone, it's Debbie here with the next instalment of your training sessions. With this week we are focusing on algebra. Now for a lot of people the word algebra can strike fear into many of the strongest hearts. However, we are going to look at it today, we're going to focus on it and have a look at how we can simplify it so that you can really understand exactly what algebra is and then how to support it at each level within the classroom. We're going to look at three different areas for our outcomes today. The first one is what is algebra? So we're going to really break it down so that you can understand exactly what algebra looks like. The second area we're going to focus on is EYFS and Key Stage 1. You might not believe it, but actually the algebra curriculum does begin right down in EYFS, transfers into Key Stage 1, and then of course our next section we're going to look at it in Key Stage 2. So probably when you think back about your own experience of algebra, you'll cast your mind back to your time in secondary school and completed GCSEs. However, when you actually break algebra down, it is representing missing numbers with letters or a shape or a colour or anything that you can represent a missing number with. When you actually think about it, we ask a lot of children at EYFS and nursery to complete things like patterns, repeating patterns, and when you think about patterns within the number system, and we'll often give them a pattern where there's a blank number missing. That's algebra because you are representing that missing number with another object. Often it's used further up in terms of calculations when we don't know the numbers in a calculation or when we think these numbers might change. So if you cast in terms of thinking about Key Stage 1, you might ask children to work out missing numbers within number ones. And if you're leaving a space, you're leaving a square, you're leaving a shape, that's algebra. And then, of course, further up the school, it will be used in mathematical formulas to represent the missing and unknown numbers. So let's have a look at where children's understanding of algebra begins right down at EYFS and Key Stage 1. Like we've already talked about those patterns in the number system, the repeating patterns with the objects and shapes, that is the children really understanding the representation of numbers, of patterns within maths. So if you are completing something with the counting bears and you are putting them into a pattern, they're understanding that the next focus in the pattern will be, or they're understanding if you take something away, they will grasp and understand that that is a representation of something. Again, that harks right back to algebra representing something that's missing. Then you've got your several forms of relations between quantities. So if you look at the fact family there, it's that relationship between those fact families and understanding the difference between each of those calculations, but also the relationship between them. Then a really key one here is the proper use of the equal sign, which comes into Key Stage 1. Yeah, probably if you cast your minds back to secondary school and completing something like simultaneous equations, you'll remember that they had to balance on either side. That's something that's really important here in terms of the children understanding what that equal sign means. It's a real understanding of balance. So the children understand that whatever's on one side has to be exactly the same as what's on the other. It just depends on the representation of that. So if you're thinking back to number bonds, you might have 5 and 5 on one side, 10 on the other. They look different, but actually the representation is the same. Then, of course, you've got your difference between addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, being related operations and understanding that you can manipulate those and change those to get the answer that you need. Then you've got the effect of adding or subtracting 0 and how that affects either side of the equal sign. And finally, you've got your commutativity and associativity of addition, understanding that within addition, you can move the numbers around and you will still get the same outcome. Looking at the calculation that's there, it looks different on either side, but we understand that it balances. As the children move down up into Key Stage 2, they will begin to develop on that understanding and that knowledge that they've built up within EYFS and Key Stage 1. So they'll move on to inverse relations between multiplication and division. You can see some examples there, understanding that you can move them round and you will still get the same answer. You will still get the same representation. Then you've got the associative law, understanding that, again, whichever way it looks on either side of the equal sign, it still gives you the same outcome. Same with the distributive law, you can see there, understanding that it can be represented in different ways. Then on the right-hand side here, we've got a bar model. This is to illustrate for you the different ways that it can be written down. So you can take the red section as A, the yellow section as B, and the blue section as C. But if you look at all of those calculation examples there, you will still see that it can be represented in different ways. Then finally, we'll look at year 6, which is the only place that algebra is directly actually mentioned within the national curriculum. However, from this training, I hope you can see that the origins of it and the real foundations of understanding what it is showing goes right back down all the way through the school. So in year 6, they're expected to express missing number problems algebraically. So if I just take a simple calculation, such as our number bonds to 10, you might have x equals 5 add 5. And it's then understanding that actually whatever is on either side of that equal sign is the key, and that missing x, that missing number, becomes 10. And because they're writing something such as x equals 5 add 5, they're then using a simple formula to express what they are understanding. They're expressing it in words, and they can read it accurately. Then they're looking at generating and describing linear number sequences. Again, this harks right back to the information that we've looked at in EYFS, and number sequences, number patterns, understanding what they are showing. Then having a look at finding pairs of numbers that satisfy number sentences involving two unknowns. So again, where you could have x equals y add z, it is then understanding that what could that be if x is 10, what could the y and the z be? And then it's the possibilities of combinations of two variables. So this is where the children are completing problem-solving tasks, such as trial and error, where they're understanding what the two missing numbers could be, the two variables, and then what the outcome could be. And again, I hope you'll see all the way through this, the key is that equal sign. Understanding that there's a balance on either side of the equals is a real key point. Thank you for listening to this short training on algebra. I hope it's been really useful for you. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to make contact with us. You can see Catherine Shahar's email address there, or you can contact myself if you need any further support or just want to talk about what you've listened to. Thank you. Bye.